It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning. We have a very, very interesting show for you this morning. We're going to meet a young lady, Sherry Willis, who has an outstanding product that I think you folks will find interesting and engaging. It's a hydroponic fodder kit, and it basically is a small half-pint sized fodder kit for your animals, and it can also grow human food, and I think you'll be interested to hear more about that. So what we're going to do is bring Sherry on with us, and in light of the fact that she is in studio this morning, we will skip our normal bullet points and jump right into our discussion with Sherry. I think you'll find it engaging and unique as a product, and we'll open our phone lines up for some questions perhaps a little bit later. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. It was a lovely walk this morning.
Yeah.
I think we're actually going to have some decent weather.
I'm thinking, well, I heard Mark say something about 50s, but this weekend it's supposed to hit 70s.
Oh, my goodness. That'll seem hot.
So I'm excited. You have a very unique product. You have created what you call the Half-Pint Homestead Fodder Kit, and this is really geared and designed to be able to feed your own livestock and your own animals, but it can also grow food for humans, and you can do this literally in your living room.
Correct.
That's the cool part. These kits are unique and they're scalable, so you can feed as few as 6 or 6 chickens or rabbits, or you can feed. I think your larger kit. How many does your larger kit handle?
The larger kit will feed up to 120 chickens, about 100 rabbits.
Okay.
And that's meat-sized rabbits because, what else are rabbits good for?
Right. Unless you've got a postage stamp lawn and you're just looking for a cheap mower.
Right. So it will also feed a milk cow and her calf.
Okay.
It'll feed 3 horses.
Wow, this is the larger kit.
This is the largest kit.
Okay.
Of course, it's the largest kit. It's also the most complicated to learn how to run. Just
Sure.
Because
it's larger.
It's larger, and it's much more disappointing to have to dump out 3 trays of fodder than it is 1 if something goes wrong. Sure. So.
Let me just kind of, for the sake of you folks who are not actually watching our stream, basically what this is this is a kit that Sherry has manufactured. She produces here locally. She's a local entrepreneur. She's invented, designed, built, and produces this kit by herself. And basically what it is a series of trays in which you actually grow seed, and then over the course of a 3 to 6 day period, 6 day period, it just basically regenerates. So you just move these trays about, and as they fully mature and develop, you pull out all of the entire contents of the tray and feed it straight to your animals, whether that may be goats or sheep or cattle, whether that's horses, whether that's chickens, rabbits, pretty much the gamut. I mean, any animal that eats this. And so tell us a little bit about what you grow in terms of end product. In other words, what are you feeding your animals?
Okay, so you can do a lot of things with fodder, but you'll start with a grain base, and barley and wheat work best. I prefer wheat, first of all, because it's available, and second of all, because it seems to not slime and mold quite as bad as barley. It doesn't
AKA fermentation.
Yes.
If you want your cattle drunk, use barley, right?
It's actually fermenting the grain increases the nutritional availability as well. But sprouting really, really makes the nutrients more available and adds a lot of enzymes, digestive enzymes. So your animal takes much, much less energy to digest it.
Sure.
It's 80% digestible as compared to about 30% digestible for the dry grain.
Gotcha.
But you can add other things. You can add sunflower seeds. You can add chickpeas, mung beans, even some smaller seeds, although those probably need to be soaked separately and sprinkled on top after the root mass starts to grow.
Mm-hmm.
The really nice thing about it is there's no waste.
Right. You feed them the root mass and everything.
Everything. The seeds
there is
that don't sprout, the root mass, everything. There's no medium. It just goes right into the tray.
Right. That was the first question I asked you is what's the medium that you grow in? And there is none.
There is none.
So essentially what you've got is these trays that are staged in tiers. Mm-hmm. And as the water, and you've got a water or a irrigation system and everything inclusive.
Correct.
And so as the top tier gets watered, it falls to the next tier and falls to the next tier and so on, right?
Right.
So essentially, this is a product that is self-sustaining. It gives you, within 6 days, it provides you, depending upon what type of, the size of the system.
Correct.
It will provide you fodder for, the 6-tray kit gives you 15 pounds of fodder each day. Takes up 4 square feet of floor space, uses 40 gallons of water per week, and uses 36 watts of power per day, which I think is that's solar power.
Right. The pump is very small, and it only runs for 15 minutes every 2 hours.
Okay.
So it doesn't take much power. You can recycle that water when you empty your tank.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful for tomato plants
and
artichoke
bet.
plants.
Sure, it's full of nutrients, and it's outstanding.
So I go ahead and recycle it, and I do potted plants and container gardens. Because,
how did I know that?
Well, the Ozarks, there's a little soil between the rocks, but it's much easier to go up than it is.
We grow great rocks around here.
Right. So
the 12-tray kit. Now, this is a very reasonably priced product. You're talking about the 6-tray kit costs $270 shipped.
Correct.
And so, and it is, for all intents and purposes, usable indefinitely.
Correct.
I mean, there's no parts to really break except maybe a pump, which,
the trays, and I finally found better trays. The trays will wear out, but the upgraded trays, which are $7 a piece, will last for years.
Gotcha.
But those weren't available when I first started. It took me a long time to find ones that I was happy with that would be sturdy enough and affordable enough, because that's really the point of this.
Right.
It needs to be affordable, and it needs to be something that you can put anywhere that's climate controlled. Mine's been sitting on my carpet in my living room for 6 months. It's designed for the minimal amount of splashing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make a mess. I probably get more water on the carpet emptying the tub because I'm lazy about it than anything.
Sure. Well, and I've seen the pictures on your website for it. By the way, folks, you can get to Sherry's website at half, and then you have to put in a dash there. It's half-pint homestead.com. So it's half-pint, like P-I-N-T, like a pint of beer, homestead.com. Sherry also has a telephone number here, and I'm going to give this out to you, so make sure you've got your pen and paper ready. It's 417-255-0722. Now, Sherry is a local resident of West Plains. She has produced, designed, built this product from scratch. She's got a great, cute little website out there that has lots of photographs and imagery so that you really get a full idea immediately of what this entire product and system is about. She also has an email which you can send her questions to, and that is Sherry, that's SHERRY, at half-pinthomestead.com. If this is something that, let's put it this way. The first use I see for this is folks who have a relatively small plot of land and yet want to be self-reliant in terms of growing, or not growing, but raising their own livestock. Because a lot of times you just don't have enough property to be able to support, a cow, as an example.
Correct.
And so the idea of having this really changes the overall paradigm for those people that would be interested in, as an example, raising a cow, even though they may not necessarily have enough land for that. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming there's no reason why you couldn't stagger or stage a few of these different things, the larger sizes, as an example, to be able to handle multiple animals as well.
You can. It's a lot of course, there's a lot of labor involved the bigger you get.
Sure.
Just like with anything.
Sure.
And I do want to stress that fodder doesn't take the place of hay.
Right.
It's a supplement, and it allows you to feed less hay and much, much poorer hay.
Got it.
But it will completely replace, all the pelleted, concentrated.
Sure. Not to mention, you know what's in your food.
Right.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Folks, when we come back, we will continue to have our discussion with Sherry. We can certainly open our phone lines if any of you have questions out there. You're listening to America's Voice Now, and we are speaking this morning with Sherry Willis, the inventor of Half-Pint Fodder Kits. We'll be right back.
Family Fun and Fitness, LLC presents rape and assault prevention classes at Country Cupboard in Licking, Missouri. Men, women, boys, and girls, if you want to know how to stack the deck in your favor in a situation where violence is the only answer, this class is for you. Rape and assault prevention classes are held Monday evenings at 5:30 beginning February 11th and run through March 18th. Class size is limited, so call today 417-260-1006 or register at Country Cupboard, 217 North Highway.
All right, we are back, and we are joined again by Sherry Willis. Sherry is the inventor, designer, and creator of the Half-Pint Homestead Fodder Kits. And, you folks have heard me talk before about the idea of having a fodder development program that is built into like a Conex container. That's really designed for more like an agri-farmer. This is more geared towards the individual self-reliant or prepper type individual who is looking to support local livestock that isn't necessarily for production other than for you and your family. So, which we strongly support that on that type of self-reliant lifestyle here. That's one of our programs. I mean, we talk a lot about politics, but because we can't necessarily make all of those changes ourselves, it's plan for the worst and hope for the best and work hard at making the best happen. But that doesn't mean that we should neglect our self-reliance. And it's not just a question of, in my mind, it's not just a question of being self-reliant for political issues. It's also the cost of food. We're seeing inflation literally raise the price of produce and meats to the point where it's really reached a skyrocketing level. And at the same point in time, what we don't know is what's in there.
Correct.
And this is where this really shines.
Because if you think that they're telling you what's in that pelleted feed,
right?
They don't even want to tell us what's in our feed. So
right, that's my point. They don't tell us what's in the meat in the store.
Right.
They sure as heck aren't telling us what's in that feed. So yeah, this is a great opportunity. Now, so let's talk a little bit about the seed itself. You said you grew wheat mostly.
Yes, I use wheat. I get it at our local feed store at Hirsch.
Right.
It costs me about $10.60 for 50 pounds.
Okay.
And in the smallest system, that'll last me for 25 days. That'll make 300 pounds of fodder.
Holy smokes.
So
so that's like a 6-to-1 ratio then.
Correct. And it can be higher too, depending on as long as your conditions are right. It's real sensitive to temperature.
Okay.
It needs to be between 70 and 75 degrees.
Okay, so this is not something you'd put out in the barn, but it is something you could perhaps do in your basement.
Correct.
Or you could do in a
spare bedroom.
A spare bedroom or out on a deck,
yeah.
Out on a porch that's an enclosed porch or something along those lines.
People's first reaction is, well, I'll build a greenhouse for this.
Right.
And
it doesn't sound like it's necessary.
It's not. And it actually makes things more difficult. You'd be better off buying one of those little sheds and insulating it because it's the stable temperature that's important. Light is really secondary.
Got it.
Any window is enough light for
really?
fodder.
You don't need an extra
No.
bulb or anything along those lines?
No. In fact, it looks pretty much the same whether I open my shades in the living room or not.
Really?
Light is not important at all. And greenhouses are really hard to keep stable temperatures in. They tend to get hot during the day and they cool off at night. And so you're just pouring a lot of money into keeping that environment stable when it's unnecessary. Because it doesn't need that light.
Gotcha. So you're growing wheat as an example, but when I think of wheat, I think of a field of wheat where it's 3 feet tall and it's starting to turn brown and it's kerneling, right? Mm-hmm. This is really completely the opposite. You're actually feeding this to your livestock as it's really shoots for all intents and purposes.
Correct. It's grass about 6 inches high with a 2-inch root mat.
Right. So they're eating the root mat, which is where, for all intents and purposes, that's where the vast majority of the nutrients are anyway.
Correct.
And so you're giving them all of this. There's absolutely no waste. And that's the part I like about it the most. I think it's, you're spending, $10 or $11 to buy the bag of grain and I'm sure that if you were, to buy multiple bags, you could probably even, beat that
Correct.
price. And so essentially you've got everything, and you said that lasts you a month?
It lasts 25 days.
25 days. Okay. That's outstanding. So you're talking about, 50 cents, less than 50 cents a day?
It costs me 40 cents per tray.
Okay. And how many animals does that feed?
That's the single tray. So you can feed 30 chickens or 40 chickens, about 30 rabbits, and that's meat rabbits with litters.
Wow.
You can feed 4 full-size milking goats in milk, or
Okay.
7 miniature milking goats, or a horse, or 2 hogs.
Okay.
Like 200-pound hogs.
Wow. I have some friends who have miniature horses. How many miniature horses can you feed? I'm just teasing you. Let's sit down with a calculator and figure this out.
4 miniature horses, just from the hip there.
So the cool part of this is that the 18-tray kit, which is really the largest, that's the largest kit you make, right?
That's the largest one for this design that's really practical.
Now that provides up to 45 pounds of fodder a day. That's a lot. When you think about the weight of 45 pounds of fodder, and it's all green shoots, so it's not dry and
Nope.
that is pretty astounding. It takes up a minuscule 6 square feet of floor space, and it uses 110 gallons of water a week and no more than 120 watts per day of electricity. So, you could almost run this on literally a solar panel.
Correct.
A tiny solar panel.
Correct.
Outstanding. You're shipping these. So let me talk about the business side of this for a minute, because that side is so intriguing to me. You started this almost as a kind of like a little side business. And I know I'm for yourself, right?
Well, I started it because I have 3 lots in town, and I wanted to raise some rabbits, and I feed this year, because of the weather conditions and everything over the summer, has just gotten incredibly high.
Right.
I am kind of a Craigslist addict, and I'm seeing these people, having to sell animals that they don't really want to sell because they can't afford to feed them.
Right.
And so I started looking for ways that I could grow some of my food, and I was actually looking at fodder beets when I came across this concept, which is huge in Australia. And so I looked into it, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is a great way to be able, because you can buy enough wheat for a whole year. I need 14 bags of wheat to feed everything I want to feed. To run a 6-tray system for a whole year, I need 14 bags of wheat.
Got it.
So that's like around $150 for a year.
Right. And that's including sales tax.
That's including sales tax. So, but there was nothing even close to as small. It was all huge commercial systems.
Right.
The cheapest one I found was $5,000, and it produced like 120 pounds of the stuff.
Right. So that's an ROI of about 24-30.
Right. It was just
on
huge.
rabbits.
And so I was like, well, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just come up with a design, because it doesn't look like it's that complicated. You just need some water and some,
Sure.
the environment. And but I wanted something that I could have in my house, and that was the real challenge, to figure out the design so that it wouldn't splash water all over.
Right. Okay.
Because I have carpet.
Right.
So I built this little system for myself, and I'm on quite a few little discussion boards about self-sufficiency, and I'm a huge believer in 1 million small farms, because that's so much more resilient than a few huge businesses.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, maybe other people would be interested in this. So I put forward the idea, and I just got this huge response. Just a huge response. And so in September, I started the design. I had sold my first kit by the middle of September. By November, I had to give notice to my job because I couldn't do both.
So this has all happened in 6 months for you.
Yes.
Outstanding. So in 6 months, you've gone from design to production to I've sold enough of these, I don't need to work at my job anymore.
Well, that was 2 months, actually.
Okay, even better. Folks, if you want to ever think about the concept of American exceptionalism, Sherry is the epitome of that. When you look up American exceptionalism in the encyclopedia, Sherry's picture is there.
Well, maybe luck. Luck could be a good thing, too.
Well, I get it, but I mean, what you've done is you've really created something that is unique, unusual, and priced in a vein that everybody can pretty much afford. I mean, your most expensive unit here is what, $420. I mean, you know, granted, you can have shipping there. What is shipping about?
Shipping is $55. It's $55.
Okay, so for $475, you can literally have this kit in your house and feed. Let's see, that's the 18 tray kit. So
Correct.
give me those numbers again.
Okay, the 18 tray kit will feed 120 chickens, 90 rabbits with litters.
Wow.
It will feed 12 full-size milking goats. It will feed a milking cow, and her
Right.
calf.
Wow.
You could feed a beef steer with it.
There you go, folks. Just have a black Angus right in the backyard.
You could feed six pigs and
Wow.
3 horses.
So literally for $475, you can have this unit in your house and feed pretty much, and it might just be a combination of chickens and rabbits and maybe a
Right,
few goats. I
right.
mean, it doesn't have to be either
No,
or, right?
no.
I mean, because I don't know anybody who's got 120 chickens, at least not in their, unless they're doing it on a commercial level basis.
I get quite a few calls from chicken farmers I know that this is cattle country, but the smaller livestock, you can feed a lot of goats on what you would feed a cow, and
Sure.
and pound per pound you get more milk, So
Right.
so you gotta consider that. I had a milk cow for 10 years and I loved her, but I had goats when we lived out in the woods, and I don't think I'd go back to a milk cow just because the inputs were so high.
Right.
You got a lot out of them too, but then you had to do something with that.
Right.
9 gallons of milk a day.
What are you going to do with all that milk?
Right. I had to get calves and put it into calves, and yes, we broke even, but it was a lot of work.
Sure.
Whereas
Not to mention twice a day. You've got them.
well, that's not true. You can milk once a day.
Okay.
So, that's a myth that you have to milk your cow twice a day.
Well, I guess if you're in the milk production business,
Correct.
you're looking for the maximum. So,
Correct.
I mean, you're really working the cow hard. So.
But, so a goat, we use a gallon a day. One goat will give that. And,
Right.
And you don't have to buy calves to feed the rest to it, and they don't eat hardly anything.
Sure.
So.
Well, when you think about it, for the self-reliant family who wants to be able to basically be conscious of what's in your food, half a dozen or a dozen chickens, maybe some meat rabbits, and a combination of that, and maybe a goat or a sheep or something like that. It sounds like literally you'd have all that you need right here in terms of fodder to be able to sustain that
Right.
that crew, if you will, right? And now you can pick and choose what you're going to butcher and slaughter when, and of course out of chickens you're going to get a lot of eggs, and so this is really the kind of thing that can turn your average little household into a mini micro farm, if you will.
Right.
Completely self-reliant.
Really.
And that's the part I like about it, is that, I'm a big avid firm believer in the idea of we should be able to live without necessarily having to run to a store, twice a week just to fill the freezer.
Right.
And I think the statistic is that most Americans don't have more than 3 days worth of food in their house. So now I know that's not you and I know that's not me, but when you think about it, 3 days worth of food is really, I mean, that's crisis, right?
That's frightening.
That's
It is.
frightening. So,
It is.
and the neat part is that you could literally do this even in a suburban environment where, you just had some cages out in the back, and maybe you don't need the biggest unit. Maybe you could live with the smaller 6-tray unit, just to feed some chickens and rabbits.
Right.
But just supplement your food with, what you grow yourself. And all right, so granted, you're not going to get a T-bone out of a bunch of rabbits, but
No, but rabbit burritos are pretty good.
You're going to have to give us the recipe for rabbit burritos. I hope that's on your website. Okay, folks, we're speaking with Sherry Willis, the designer and inventor of Half-Pint Homestead. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take some calls from our listeners. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. You can call us at 257-1111 and 866-554-6636. We'll be back in just a moment.
Fitness, 110 West Trish Knight Street, downtown West Plains.
Okay, we're back, and we are joined again by Sherry Willis. She is the owner, inventor, creator, designer, and entrepreneur extraordinaire of Half-Pint Homestead Fodder Kits. I want to make sure I give you folks this website again because she's got a great little site out there that really kind of explains it all. There you can order, of course, off the website, but in addition to that, it has photographs that you can see and some information that you'll need to know. So it's half-pinthomestead.com. Half, H-A-L-F, dash, pint, P-I-N-T, like a pint of beer, homestead.com. And by the way, if you grow barley, you might end up with beer.
Well,
not
if you don't
really.
change the water enough, you will.
Right. Right. If you don't change the water, you might end up with beer. Also, Sherry's telephone number, and by the way, she is local in West Plains. And so if you'd like to purchase one of these kits for use in your own home or your own homestead, you can actually do that and avoid shipping because you can come here and pick it up. How easy is that? Now, Sherry's telephone number is 417-255-0722, and she can be reached via email at sherry@half-pinthomestead.com. I was reading you've got a brochure here that I found kind of intriguing because it really gives you the whole skinny on this. The bullet points for those of you who are listening: save money. Fodder is very cost effective because you're basically creating pasture out of water and thin air. By the way, you're a good writer. 1 pound of grain translates into 6 pounds of fodder. So there's your comparison, folks. I mean, just do the math on that. The cool part is that they eat the entire mat, so there's absolutely no waste. And when you grow 6 pounds of fodder, they eat 6 pounds of fodder.
Right. There's no stems underneath, or yeah.
Right. And there's nothing to clean up later, and it's
well, there is, but it's not fodder.
Okay. No, it's fertilizer.
Right.
For your tomato plants and other stuff outside, right?
Right.
Fodder provides a much higher protein and vitamin content than just simply dry grain. The mat is living, and so essentially it's giving you the enzymes and the micronutrients that have already evaporated out of dry feed. And that's a critical aspect or component of this, is that the nutrition that they're getting is far greater than they're ever going to get from eating just dry grain.
Well, that's correct, and they don't have to. When an animal eats dry grain, first of all, they have to take energy to chew it, and then their body has to hydrate it.
Right.
So that pulls water out of their gut, and it has to be replaced, and that causes some issues with the flora in their gut, and so there's
Sure.
a lot of energy that goes with that, and then their body has to break the starch into sugar, and it has to break up the lignin and that kind of stuff. Well, because of the growth process, that's already all done
Right.
in the fodder. So the animal doesn't have to hydrate it. So if you have an old horse that's losing weight on pasture, whatever, they can eat this, and it doesn't take them any energy. They're not putting energy into digesting their food. They're
Sure.
just taking it right out of the
And
food.
suddenly those ribs aren't showing anymore.
Right.
Hey, folks, if you'd like to ask Sherry a question, if you've got a specific question about your situation or in reference to the product, you're certainly welcome to call us. You can give us a shout on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. That telephone number is 257-1111. And if you're out in the hinterlands, 866-554-6636. The cool idea on this is also that you know what's going into this feed. You're not buying something that may have pesticides on it. You're not buying something that and you know what's going into the fodder or the feed that you're feeding your animal that you're alternatively going to eat at some point in the future.
Right. Well, the other nice thing is because it's just whole grain, you can buy it from locally. you don't
Right.
have that. There's no processing really. You can get it. You'll have to clean it a little better out of the combine.
Sure.
But you can, bypass the whole middleman thing and go
Got
right
it.
to the farmer.
That's cool. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
I missed that last sentence because I was trying to dial.
Okay, I don't know.
About you can get it direct from the farmer. What can you get direct?
Go ahead.
Well, you use whole grains for this, wheat or barley. And I've seen on Craigslist, there are farmers who will sell wheat to you by the bushel. And, when farmers sell commodities, they get pennies.
Right.
So they can charge you less than the feed store does and still make more money than they would if they sold it as a commodity.
Got it.
So that allows you to keep your money local, which is great.
Absolutely.
Because it turns over 12 times,
Right.
And you get a better price and they get more money.
Sure. And you know what you're getting.
And you know what you're getting because you can ask them what they sprayed on that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
My
That's the cool part.
question then was, you said these are basically like a sprouted grain.
Correct.
Okay. Can people eat it?
Yes.
Okay.
That was going to be our next.
Boom.
Yes.
Boom.
You can let it. You can eat it as a sprout, or you can let it go the whole 6 days and you can juice it as wheatgrass juice. I can't say I'm a fan of that, but I know there are a lot of people who really think it's great.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm looking at there's so much nutrition removed from everything we eat anymore.
Oh yes.
Right. But the cool part is that if you were to juice this, you'd be juicing everything. So you're getting the root mass and you're getting everything else that you're juicing, which is not just, you think about shoving a carrot into a juicer, right? I mean, you're really only getting, you're not getting all the greens at the top and all the rest of that. So just to use that as an example, you're getting all the root mass too.
Right.
Right.
So-
Right. But see, I was raised country, and we used to pull a carrot out of the ground and dust it off on our blue jeans and eat it,
Sure.
all day long. And now they say, oh, you can't touch the dirt without a glove on.
Yeah, right.
That's
That's only from folks who live in the city, dear.
yeah, right. That's a fact.
And they constantly use that alcohol pump
Right.
to wipe their hands, right?
Can you sprout anything besides wheat?
Yes. You probably wouldn't want to do real small seeds like alfalfa without some kind of, because they would wash through the holes. But you could sprout mung beans, lentils, field peas. Some people do corn. I think it's gross, but
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's different, right? That's what makes the world go round.
That's right.
Well, the other, there's no reason why you couldn't make bean sprouts or anything else along that line. And
Right,
of course,
right.
again, it doesn't matter that. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't directly eat the wheatgrass that you're growing as well, right? I mean, especially if you nabbed it early enough before it really started to turn green and shoot at the top. But I mean, there's no reason you couldn't eat that root mass as well, right?
no, you could eat that.
I mean, I don't know whether we'd like it, but
It's very sweet.
is it?
Yes.
I was going to say there's probably some uses for it, maybe in bread or something.
Well, either that or maybe in oatmeal. I mean, if it's that sweet, maybe you toss it into your oatmeal in the morning.
You can, one of the ways to make bread better for you is to slightly sprout your grain and then dehydrate it and grind it that way. And it
I hadn't
makes
thought of the dehydration aspect of
it. It makes a really nice, sweet malted kind of flour that's great in bread.
Mm-hmm. So it's beer. It tastes like beer. No, I'm just kidding.
You're
I'm
on
just
a beer
kidding.
kick this morning.
I know, and you know what's funny? I don't even really drink beer.
Yeah, I don't. It's the pint.
It's the pint thing, right?
And St. Patty's Day is coming up.
Yeah.
Terry, I have a question. I got a hold of a lady about a year ago that was selling a milk cow, and then I lost her number, and I knew that she was up there, right about West Plains. Was that by chance you?
No, I have never had cows as long as I've been in Missouri.
Okay, because I was in touch with somebody that was going to sell a milk cow, and and then I lost my way, to get a hold of her.
Sure.
So I was just wondering if by chance that because I know that she was really, involved in a lot of green things in a lot of different, projects.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: you can send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. And if anybody out there is listening who was the milk cow seller or wants to be a milk cow seller, you also can email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org, and I will transfer your emails to each other.
Well, I've kind of decided we better have a community cow because it's like Sherry said a minute ago, what do you do with that much milk?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
we need a commune cow.
Well, there's a lot to be said for that idea. I mean, literally, we have talked more often than not about having people who have specialty areas or skills, and everybody kind of pitches in the community concept. If you live in an area where you're friendly with 3 or 4 other families, there's absolutely no reason why you cannot literally produce, enough milk to support yourselves, but not have any waste either.
Right.
So, by all means, I'm a big proponent of that.
So I live in Mammoth Spring, and I wouldn't mind the community cow. So if anybody else wants to call in,
There you go. Okay.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Thank you so much for the call.
okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Folks, and those were all very good questions. Thank you very much. If you're the person who was trying to sell a milk cow, give me a shout or send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org, and caller, do the same, and I will make sure I put you two together. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take one more phone call, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. I want to make sure that you folks have an opportunity to get to Sherry's website, and so again, it is half-pinthomestead.com, and you can email Sherry at half-pinthomestead or half-pinthomestead.com. You can also give her a call directly at 417-255-0722. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll grab 1 or 2 more phone calls, and then we'll wrap our show for the day. Thank you for joining with us here at americasvoicenow.org. Hold on.
Here on 107.1 The Point.
All right, we are back, and again, we are joined by Sherry Willis, the founder, designer, creator, and entrepreneur extraordinaire for Half-Pint Homestead Fodder Kits. And we've got another call on the line. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I've been listening with what Sherry's been saying, and Kevin and I are fascinated with. I can't wait to talk to her. But I just wanted to make a little aside about they were talking about the amount of milk. This is the second person who's called in. We have a milk cow, and we get about 4-ish gallons a day. And I go to the store now once a month because I make my own cheese, of course, milk, butter, sour cream, cream cheese.
Sure.
And it's amazing. Butter, I really don't have to buy any of those things that you typically have to race to the store for because you go out of.
Right.
You make it, you freeze it. It's not like what everybody thinks. It's not really time consuming. It doesn't cost a lot. It's very easy. So I just thought I'd let everybody know that if you did have a cow and you did have other people, and I know people will come grab milk sometimes, and
Sure.
So
share a little bit with the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, you guys homeschool too, right? So
and we homeschool.
What
so
a
we can't wait
perfect
to do this
opportunity
plant
for
thing.
your
Yes,
I mean, it's a learning experience, a
and
teachable moment, as they say. Right?
Absolutely, it sounds incredible.
I can't wait to put you two together. I'll make sure that, well, you've got her phone number and the email address,
yes.
so you guys can, you don't need me to do it, but you guys can get together. And, of course, the great part is that Sherry is local, so, and you folks are too. So that'll be a perfect opportunity for you guys to get together.
I was hoping she was. Yeah, it's going to be local.
Yeah. So, I'm excited about this product. I'm telling you, I keep trying to encourage her to go bigger with it, and she's got all these ideas about I don't want to be a big business girl.
Well, you either have to be huge or tiny to make it. It seems like, because if you're tiny, you can do things yourself, and if you're huge, you can take advantage of the economies of scale and get a lot. But if you're middle sized, boy, it squeezes you.
Well, but you've got a unique product, and it might be a good time to capture the market.
It might be, considering I'm getting calls from Egypt and
you
India. I shipped one today.
A unit to the Philippines yesterday. So, I mean, this has got some international implications.
Well, right now the price of grain is so expensive. Just to have 25 chickens and some whatever pigs, you're talking lots of money for grain.
Absolutely.
You no longer save money, collecting your eggs or whatever. You're actually going in the hole because of how costly the grain is.
Exactly. So, hey, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You guys have a great day. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yes, I just want to say I think it's really neat you've been able to promote local products lately. You know, the water well people, the road hole, this sprouting system.
Yep. Well, that's part of our project here, and
yeah.
you know, is let's make sure that we keep it local, spend it local. It recycles through the economy at least 7. Depends on who you talk to, but at minimum 7 times. Sometimes, you know, depending upon what it is, maybe 10 or 12 times. So, you know,
with the Ozark business development thing going, perhaps, you know, Missouri number 50 in the creation of jobs, maybe we could get something going.
I'm doing my best to change that number single-handedly.
All by yourself, you seem to be doing more than some of our governmental agencies promoting growth.
My goal is to beat Jefferson City at their own game. I don't know how close I'm going to get, but
start at it anyway.
Well, you know, they're the guys who kind of got us into this position of number 50 anyway. So, actually, you know, I don't really have that much to overcome.
No, just inertia.
Exactly, just inertia. So,
right,
yeah, this is. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
This is a great product, folks. You're really going to, you know, I think this is the kind of thing that takes every small, you know, home where you've got, you know, an individual that just wants to be self-reliant, and or if you're a prepper, it's great for that too. In fact, the idea of taking these shoots and then freeze drying them, which you brought out earlier, Sherry, that's a great concept. I mean, because then you can freeze dry it, you can put it away for as long as you need it, pull it out when you need it, add it to your bread or to whatever else you're making, and you're getting the benefit just like your animals would, right?
Correct.
So.
And you can gauge how much you need. Like I was saying, I need 14 bags of grain to go through a year.
Right.
That's really not that much to store, and it doesn't cost that much.
Sure.
Especially if you buy it from the farmer when they've just finished harvesting, and it's the least inexpensive. So it allows you to have that. And, of course, if you use wheat in an emergency, you can use that for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got that stored for both your animals and yourself.
Yeah. You know, I saw a thing, a news bulletin this morning about California, that there's some earthquake out there, and they're thinking it might be the you know, a precursor to a larger quake. And they were saying that, you know, FEMA's been out there pumping it out. Hey, folks, get ready prepare yourselves for at least 2 weeks without access to stores and blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, if there was a giant earthquake, let's face it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, in fact, this is the first thing I thought of when I thought of that, and or when I read that story, and I'm thinking to myself, duh. I mean, it may not be great, you know. It may not be, you know, the normal steak or the bread and milk or eggs that you're normally buying in the store. But even if you had to eat this, I mean, it would keep you alive.
Right.
And literally, it's self-sustaining, and you've got enough food in there to keep an entire family going.
Well, and if you're home in an emergency, you don't need the power. You can hand water it.
All right, there you go.
So, you know, if you don't have power, it's not a deal breaker if you're there to water it every few hours.
You know what I love about this product, too? It's ideal for the family, because if you one, even if you're not homeschooling, which is that other caller, she's homeschooling a bunch of kids, but even if you're not, this is kind of like the idea of the old egg incubator that our parents, you know, wanted us to see when we were kids, right? So you see the miracle of life, and you know how it all works. And this is a perfect opportunity for a teaching moment for your kids. And you know, it's the kind of thing that they can not only participate in, but feel proud about the fact that, hey, they contributed, right? I think that's one of the things that's missing from our youth today, is this idea that they're on the outside and isolated on the outside looking in, and they really don't play an active role in anything. And they get bored and go play video games or something.
Right. Well, and it's not, it's something that could be their job. It's not that complicated.
Right.
It's a kind of a ritual thing. You do this at this time, you do this at this time. Every other day you change the water and put new water in and wash the tank.
Sure.
And so it's something they could do on their own with minimal supervision.
Develop structure and responsibility, and then you can tie that to, and right after that, you also take out the garbage.
Well, and there's some critical thinking involved, too. Like, all of a sudden there's mold. Well, what's going on, you know?
Gotcha.
I didn't wash the trays. So there are consequences to not doing things correctly.
There you go. So, and it also, you know, it's also the kind of thing that it teaches, you know, these kids the basics of how they could do this on their own later on if they needed to. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show. You've got a minute left.
Hi, I have another question. You know, you're talking about getting wheat from the farmer. Do you know if you're getting Monsanto wheat, or how do you know who to go to get what wheat?
Wheat is not, there is no GMO wheat that is commercially sold in America.
Okay.
So wheat is quite safe. Wheat and barley. Corn, you can pretty much guarantee if you get it from a
It's like
feed
80%.
store, yeah, it's going to be GMO unless it's funny colors. But wheat, it may not be organic, but it's not genetically modified.
Right.
It will be a hybrid, but that's a different thing.
Is that in your book?
What book?
It's
It's on the website. Well,
Okay.
I don't know that is on the website, but she doesn't have a book. She does have a website, and that's half-pinthomestead.com. Thank you for that perfect segue.
Okay.
Well,
Get onto her website and find out.
You can sign up for a weekly newsletter about fodder on my website. And we
Bingo.
actually did go over that, the difference between hybrids and GMOs and that sort of thing, because it just has a little technical thing about fodder usually every week, and then why should you do this or why should you not?
Yeah, that'd make a great book. Okay, bye.
Hey, thanks so much. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap. I just want to make sure that you have Sherry's information again. It's Sherry Willis, Willis. Her telephone number is 417-255-0722. And the web address is half-pinthomestead.com. You can also reach Sherry via email at sherry@half-pinthomestead.com. Now, you have a Facebook page too, right?
I do. It's Half-Pint Homestead.
Okay, so it's facebook.com/half-pint homestead.
And there's a dash, too.
There's a dash in there. Okay,
Yes.
so it's facebook.com/half-pint homestead. And you can get out there. And you know what else is a great idea? If you're a Facebook user, I would like for you to like Sherry's page, because that helps her to gain momentum in terms of being able to spread the word with others. But in addition to that, it also allows you to share her page with your friends, and we can help support each other. That's part of our community, right? It's not just a question of buying from each other. It's a question of letting our friends and our family and those that we have influence with know what we've done so that they can participate as well. Folks, this 6-tray kit runs for $235 if you're buying it local, $270 if it's shipped, and that gives you up to 15 pounds of fodder per day. The 12-tray kit runs $315 or $360 shipped, and that provides 30 pounds of fodder. And then the larger 18-tray kit provides 45 pounds of fodder a day, and that's a measly $420. So if you have some livestock, you want to know what's going in there, and you want to cut the expensive feed out, this is the perfect solution for you. You can send me an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org if you have more information and questions, and I'll make sure that I get those over to Sherry, or you can contact Sherry directly. Telephone number again, 417-255-0722, and it's half-pinthomestead.com, Sherry@half-pinthomestead.com, and facebook.com/half-pint-homestead. Be a half-pint homesteader. Thanks, Sherry.
And Sherry is spelled like the wine, because there's about a million ways to
There you
spell
go.
it.
Sherry.
Right.
Good point. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you coming in and joining with us today.
Well, thanks for asking
Really
me.
informative. Folks, you're listening to America's Voice Now. We are going to wrap our show for the day. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Have yourselves a great day. And remember that each and every one of us can make a difference. What we've got to do is apply ourselves and work towards that. One of the ways that we do that is working together as a community. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We'll see you tomorrow.